Hey, good people. It is Jody of Fervor Voice back here again to do another episode, to do some more work. Today, what is it? Thursday, February 16th, we are doing an episode on considering the source. So, the vibe today is consider the source. I'll let you know what I mean by that. And we all going to do some work and we're going to listen close. Let's go. Hey, I hope you're ready to consider the source. Jody Maynard of Fervor Voice, ready to go ahead and do that work. And the work today is considering the source. So in considering the source, let's first of all just make sure we're all on the same page with what it is to consider the source. And I know for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, whenever I said to myself, and it's such an old saying, but whenever I said to myself, consider the source, it was kind of throwing shade. It was throwing shade on somebody because something may have happened and it was just like, well, more so, what do you expect? And that's kind of throwing shade. That's what that is. Whereas you just kind of put somebody out there where it's like they don't know any better. Because when you break it down, that's what that means. They don't know any better. When you say consider the source, when I said consider the source, it usually wasn't a compliment. As a matter of fact, I can't even think of when I said that and it was actually a compliment. It was always shade. So we need to kind of flip that a little bit, because it is important to consider the source. And I have been learning that in my class. So with my class that I'm taking, it's something that I took because I felt like, okay, I have to put myself out there, have to start doing some more things, have to start making even better use of my time, like beyond fervor. I, got some other stuff that I need to learn about, find out about. And in this class, I found that since I'm on the other side of it, I'm sitting in the student seat and then there's an instructor, right? So from the very beginning, I'm kind of looking at the style. That's because that's what I've done for a while. So I'm looking at teaching style. I need to figure out how this individual is going to instruct so that I know what it is that I have to do on my own, because it's never 100%. Whenever, and even for kids, it's never 100% on the educator, teacher, instructor, whatever it is that you want to call them. Some of that work is going to have to be on the student. It's just a matter of how much, right? So with this particular class, it was, pretty early on that I realized, this is not, I already know what I'm looking at. Like, I've done enough mentoring and observing and coaching, and I've done enough where I can tell right off the bat what preparation probably looked like. In other words, whether there was real preparation done, or if you just, okay, I know what I'm doing and I'm gonna wing it. I don't like that type of instructing personally, because I think that when you're instructing, you have to instruct for everybody. I don't really process the same as everyone else. So I expect the instructor to kind of catch that pretty quick, just by responses and just by the different things. And because if that's what you do, you're supposed to be able to pick up on certain things. You got to be able to deliver on several different levels. Now, this is my perspective, right? This is my perspective. So it is going to look different for others. So when I go to class and I'm in there, and the second day, I'm like, this is just how it's going to go. Not a whole lot of preparation. You just going to stand up there and just kind of talk. I don't like that kind of instructing. Again, I know what I'm looking at. And when I'm looking at something like that, it bothers me. It frustrates me. And eventually, I just start tuning out. I don't even want to be bothered with it. I won't pull my hair up because I'm sitting in there with earbuds on. Terrible student. That's just terrible. but it's a lack of engagement. And I can't really blame it on the instructor. Like, I'm an adult. I can't really blame it on the instructor. That's something that I, as an adult, have to make sure that I do, that I'm present. And it's hard for me to be present, but it's still got to happen. But I got to consider the source. Again, not shade. I have to consider the source. And in that particular situation, I am not the source. In that particular situation, the instructor is the source. So let me consider that source. Let me break that down. Let me explain what I mean by that. I mean that instructor is the one that's giving from where they are. They're the source. They're giving from where they are. And something told me I need to kind of figure out what it is that I'm dealing with here, because there's a real disconnect. So when I started to consider it, I said, let me just take me out of it. Take my expectations out of it. Because again, I am not the source. So why am I putting my expectations on the instructor? I'm not the source. The instructor is. So I got to consider that individual. I already understand this person is going to show up and talk, stand there and have a conversation, basically, until we're put into groups. That's pretty much what's done every day. Do I like that style? No, because it's really too predictable. And I do like spontaneity, because that's what engages. But I have to keep telling myself to take me out of it. It's the instructor. So the instructor breaks us up after we do the same thing, that PowerPoint, that conversation. What do you think? Anybody else have anything? And everybody's just sitting there. Nothing. Okay. Break up. We have our up close personal with the partner. And after that, class is over. So once I get to that part, I'm good. Well, we get to that part, and that particular day, I was kind of having it rough because I did not want to come to class. I literally sat in the car and listened to music. I was like, this is just going to be meditation for me. I'll be up there in a little bit. I don't want to give up 30 minutes though. Or I want to pull away 30 minutes so this class will feel a little shorter. So I'm going to pull away 30 minutes on my own. I'm sitting in the car, meditating. And after that 30 minutes, I was like, okay, alarm went off. Okay, let me go on in. So I go in. It's still the same situation. We do finally make it to the groups. And I get with this person that's, I sit very close to her, but I just hadn't been in a group with her before. So we get in this group together and we start to talk and give our little back and forth to each other, small talk. And then we start really digging in. And I said to her, we have to be honest with each other. We start talking this thing through. And I'm like, you know what? I got to be honest. I was sitting there, I didn't want to come in. And she was like, yeah, and you brought that in with you. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. And she said, yeah, you brought that in with you too, and I see it. Like that energy is still sitting with you. I'm looking at you. I see it. It's still sitting with you. What's that all about? And I told her. And she just looked, she was just like, what? Are you? Listen, everybody's going to do everything their own way, but I don't know if that means that you just shut it off. Are you not seeing all these people in this room that you're getting to know and whose perspectives are changing yours? Are you forgetting what you're gaining? And again, mind blown. I wasn't ready. I, I, okay, yeah, you're right. She was like, yeah, you're forgetting about that. So whether or not you like that style of teaching, it really has nothing to do with what you're here to do. It doesn't have anything to do with it. You still got to get something out of this. You see what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, I do. She said, so all the other stuff, you can park that. But there are certain things that we do to get ourselves out of that rut. And you have to start doing that. Because this thing you brought in here, I feel it. You have to stop that. And it was just like, oh, damn, that's pretty much what I say on the podcast. Pretty much. You got to do, just the last episode was balancing act. You got to do what you need to do to keep yourself situated. Whatever it is, to keep yourself happy, to pull yourself out of those heavy and dark times. And that's a heavy, dark time for me sitting in there. It's crazy, but it is. Because it's frustrating to me what I'm seeing. Because I know what I'm looking at. I know when you just show up and just start blowing smoke. I know what that looks like. But that's not me. That doesn't have anything to do with me. And what she was trying to say to me is consider the source. And you do what you need to do. Consider the source and don't make it about what you think it should be. You got to consider the source. I know what you're saying. I know. I get it. What does it have to do with the end goal? The answer is nothing, because like I said, some of the work is going to be mine. I already know that. As an educator, I already know some of the work is going to be mine. It's just a matter of how much. Just so happens here in this situation, it's a whole lot more than I thought. It's a whole lot more than I thought. This is like one of those situations where it's self-taught. Like, it just gives you a few points and you go ahead and run with it. And that's just what it is. Consider the source. I had to do that. I had to consider the source. So after I get through that, after she cracks my face, so lovingly cracks my face, and I sent her a text on the way home. I was like, wow, thank you. I appreciate you so much. I needed that. She was like, oh, no, we do what we do. That's just what it is. So I had to whip out the card that she had given us because I just threw it in my bag. I wasn't going to worry about it. I threw it in my bag. But after I had to consider the source, I said, okay, considering the source is going to take me actually being open to this. So I read her card. It's almost like a bookmark, but it's a little wider than that. There's a specific word they have for those things. But anyway, so it's got her picture on it and information and her philosophy and things of that nature and, her social media and stuff like that. And when I read it, everything on there, it literally mirrors her style of instruction. That woman did not lie about one thing. Because she basically, when I read it, what I understood that to say was, this is your stuff. Now, I'm gonna get you to it. I'm gonna point you in the right direction. But the rest of that's on you. But I'm gonna point you in the right direction. Now, this is a 2-part course. So after the first part, I won't actually get that certification that I want in my hands unless I do that second part. When I spoke with my friend earlier, she asked me, was I coming back for the second part? I said, oh, girl, no. I can't take it. I can't take it. After I read that, after I considered the source, which she is the source, when I considered the source, there was one other thing that I needed to do besides just consider the source. And once I read her bio and her philosophy and theory, all that good stuff, when I read that, that's when I had to do more than just consider the source. That's when I had to accept the source. Because just like my partner told me, her style of doing the things that she's doing has nothing to do with the end goal. Nothing to do with the end goal. You got to get there anyway. And if you paid for it, you signed it, you might as well go ahead and get it. This is your time you're not going to get back. So you got to make this thing work for you. That woman is not going to care if I don't come back. That doesn't have anything to do with her. She's not going to care. So when I consider the source, I also have to accept it. And I also have to keep myself and my judgment out of it. This is another part that kind of has to do with some of my shadow work and the judgment. Considering the source, then accepting the source means that you have to let that judgment take the back seat. And I sit in a lot of judgment. That's just who I am. And breaking that judgment down and pulling that away from the things that have to get accomplished is hard work. I had a person say, it's been a couple months. And I was saying something and we were just, just kind of sitting there laughing and talking. I believe I was at my niece's. So we were all just sitting down talking, all this good food and everything, talking, having a great time. And then somebody said, well, you know how Jody is now. Jody will be, you be laughing and talking, you won't even know the shade is on you. And oh, love. It was like that scratch record, like, and it was just like all the noise, all the talking, everything just stopped. And I just kind of looked like, wait, what? But everybody else is laughing like, yep. Stuck with me. And when I tell you, I had to write about that in my journal. Because I am that person. I will say some slick stuff. Have everybody in the room laughing. I will say some slick stuff, but that slick stuff comes over different when it's directed at you. And I had to come back on that because that's more that judgment. When I'm saying different things, she's not doing it, not that. That's judgment. But that's judgment that stood with me, that was about me. I can only be judgmental to others if I'm judgmental to myself. So I recognize that. Also, I knew that. But I kind of wasn't, I wasn't really thinking about it till it came back up again. So even in that respect, there's some things that have to be considered and accepted. But the message I wanted to leave with you is to consider the source, but not only to consider the source, but to accept the source. Because when things start going wrong, it's because we didn't consider the source and accept the source. If I'm having a conversation with someone, or if I just got to know someone and they're explaining things about their life, the way that they treat me as an individual is directly going to align with what they've explained to me. It's directly going to align because our path absolutely affects the way that we deal with people, deal with situations, deal with life. If we were in a world of considering the source and accepting a source, how little discourse, division would we have? Like how little? I won't even say how much, because there literally wouldn't be much. If we were considering the source and accepting the source and making much smarter decisions on it, we'd all be better off because we can accept it. So with this, I can honestly say, in considering the source and accepting the source, yeah, I absolutely changed my mind on whether or not I'm going to continue on with that second part. Because whether she is what I want her to be or not, I still have to be what I want to be. I still got somewhere that I need to go. Considering the source. If you remember my episode several episodes back, when I'm on 10, and I talked about how a friend of mine, who is still a friend, how that friend said, who does that? Because when I was on 10, it was about making that decision and saying, you know what? This is not the job that I want to remain in. I need to resign. I recognize that. I can't do it anymore. There are other things that have happened in my life, detrimental. And it's not allowing me to do it. And it's also allowing me to see some things that I didn't see for a very long time, or things that I didn't, quote unquote, consider. So when that friend said to me, what? Who does that? If I would have considered the source, yeah, I would have talked to her about it. Probably not in those terms. Because this person is a member of corporate America who hires and fires. This person is a member of corporate America who works 60, 70 hours a week. This person is a family member that, yeah, absolutely is one of those that's very, very assertive. Let me say that. So if I would have considered the source, it wouldn't have made me so rattled to hear who does that. It would not have made me so rattled. Now, I did end up kind of just getting a chuckle out of that. But I'm just saying, had I considered the source, that probably wouldn't have been a conversation that I would have had that would have gone the way it went. Whereas it was just like, that's it. Don't need that in my life. It probably wouldn't have gone that way. But because I didn't consider the source and accept the source, things went a little differently. We all experience the things that we experience, and we just respond from that. That's all I have. Just the fact that moving forward, considering the source and accepting the source will put you in a better position than it will, or than it would, considering the source in a way that's just like they don't know any better. It's not even about knowing any better. It's really not. It's about who individuals are, and it's about accepting who they are, while still keeping what you need to be focused on and your own path, while staying on that path and making sure that you're still focused on what it is that you need to complete, what it is that you need to do. So at the end of the day, not only consider the source, accept the source. The source is not always you. So it's not always going to be what you would expect it to be. But consider the source, accept the source, make the right decisions involving that source, involving your life, involving your decisions. You'll turn out so much better. You'll be at so much more peace. But I'm going to go ahead and end now, because that's all I got. That's all I got for you. It is, it's real nice out too. And I think I need to take a real quick walk, but that's what I want to leave you with. And I want to dedicate this episode to my girl, Shannon, who had to crack my face in class and get me back on track and back on my path for what it is that I needed to do. Thank you so much for that, Shannon. I needed it. I absolutely did. Y'all find yourself a Shannon that'll crack your face when you need to in the moment, so that you can handle your stuff, so that you can consider the source and accept the source for you. It's Jody Maynard of Fervor Voice signing off. Love y'all. Thanks for joining me. Peace.